Peace with Justice Sunday enables the United Methodist Church to have a voice in advocating for peace and justice through a broad spectrum of global programs. This is the podcast celebrating Peace with Justice Sunday.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Peace with Justice Sunday Special Sunday podcast. Super excited to have you listening in today. I know there's lots of things you could be doing with your time, and we're just honored that you would take some time out to spend with us today. Super excited today to have Tina Carter with us, Pastor Tina Carter. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. I know you've got a lot going on in your world, and so we're just thankful that you've decided to spend some time with us today. Why don't we just start? Tell us a little bit of the Tina story. Give us a bit of an insight into where you're at and where you're serving today and all those, that sort of thing.
I am very grateful to be serving in an East Austin neighborhood, which means a neighborhood that's filled with people who come from generational poverty. Okay. And generational poverty is different than just not having money. It is a different culture where things that are valued in generational poverty may not be valued in middle-class society. And so we do a lot of work at our congregation, building a bridge between middle-class congregations and congregations where generational poverty is prevailing culture. So I'm grateful to be serving in that setting. I was the senior pastor at Parker Lane United Methodist Church until 2013, when our conference did something it had never done before. And we moved a sitting senior pastor to an associate pastor for community ministries, and I got to move into that spot. And we received a new senior pastor, the Reverend Sharon Stewart, an African-American woman who looks much more like the neighborhood. And so it was really good for the neighborhood and the church. And it's allowed us to do some pretty innovative and lovely things.
Very cool. Well, why don't we start by telling us a little bit about, some of those bridges that you're building. What does that actually look like for your church?
What we do is we put special emphasis with our young people and training. So our young people get training on leadership and on cross-cultural work. They get an opportunity to figure out what middle-class culture looks like and how it feels. And then they get trained on how to translate how we experience life. And then we invite middle-class, mostly insulated and isolated middle-class congregations to visit our church in the summer for something called Crossover Camp. And that camp's relatively inexpensive for them, and they get to come here and they get to participate in a bus challenge, a food challenge. They get to go to apartment ministries, which we do all the time. So they kind of get a feel for who we are and what we do. And our youth lead those.
Very cool.
Oftentimes the people who come don't understand that our youth are, 15, 16, 17 and are not adults, because our youth are really well trained and very calm and really competent. So that's one of the things we do. But we have about 20 different nonprofits associated with our church. Wow. And we do that because we know that we're called to be a healing force in the community.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And so we open our doors to all kinds of things that match kind of our mission and our call. So all of us are called to make disciples for the transformation of the world. And at Parker Lane, we know that everybody is somebody and that Christ is for all. And so we have as much grace when we're receiving people who are coming for free mental health counseling as we do when we're receiving people who come for worship on Sunday morning.
Very cool. What an exciting ministry that you're a part of. This is one of the things I love about this particular special day is, by supporting Peace with Justice Sunday, where you're supporting incredible ministry like this. You're standing side by side with you as you're making a difference in your community. How do your ministries connect with what happens at Peace with Justice Sunday?
Well, a couple of ways. One of them is we participate in Peace with Justice Sunday. We take an offering and we explain what it means, and we talk about why this is such an important part of who we are as United Methodists. Because we aren't just a single body out here, we're connected globally. And so Peace with Justice is a part of our original call as a denomination. And so we love that special Sunday because we get a chance to tell the story of who we are and why we're connected. So the offering alone brings a lot of benefit to our community because we find that in giving, we are able to establish new connections that we didn't even know happened. In addition to that, we have written a couple of grants
Very cool.
asking for some support for some of our nonprofits, and some of those have been funded. For instance, we have a nonprofit called Redemptive Work. Okay, that nonprofit works with folks that have a barrier to entry into a sustainable life. So for instance, they may have a felony on their record. They're done with their time, they're out, but if you have a felony in the city of Austin, you can't get housing anywhere.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy.
And it's very difficult to find a job.
Right.
And so we work one-on-one with folks that have barriers, whether it's housing, whether it's that they don't have a GED, whether it's language. We work one-on-one with folks and help them get to a sustainable life. And so we've written, we wrote a grant for that. And the grant that we received not only helped us work with clients, but it also funded some of our neighbors who are generational poverty to continue to develop their own skills in leadership.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to do the work of the neighborhood with the people in the neighborhood, right? Instead of to, for, or at, we get to work with, and everybody gets transformed in that process. We had one, do you have time for a story?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
We have one client of ours who has a felony on his record, and he would say he earned that. He actually was running a pretty major drug ring. And so when he was released from prison after doing his time, he didn't have any self-concept or self-confidence because our prison system in Texas isn't geared toward rehabilitation. It's geared toward retribution, really punishment. And so you go in and you come out and you're just wrecked. And so we just kind of sat with him and asked questions, you know, well, what did you do? He had no confidence that he had any skills at all. But when we started telling his story back to him, he realized that he knew how to run a trucking fleet.
Right.
He knew how to manage distribution of a product.
Right.
He knew how to manage employees.
Right.
Right. And so once he kind of made that shift, he started applying to different things. He started going with confidence into some of the programs other programs that we're affiliated with. Dude, he's employed full-time in a job with benefits, and he has a place to live.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there may be churches that are listening in today that aren't participating in Peace with Justice Sunday, which I know is hard to believe, but there are. If there was a listener, you know, listening in, maybe a church leader, might be a minister, pastor, maybe it's a lay leader, you know, from a church like that, what would you say to them to try to encourage them to participate?
A lot, actually. The United Methodist Church did a campaign not very long ago called Ministry With. And if you go to ministrywith.org, you can see a great, I think, 1 minute and 30-second video that talks about, instead of doing missions at people, right? Developing relationships with people, and then celebrating when God transforms everybody. Right? I think too many times congregations operate out of a spirit of scarcity. Oftentimes we get caught in that, oh my gosh, there's not enough money, or if I ask for money with Peace for Justice, then my regular offering will go down.
Right.
But we don't actually worship a God of scarcity. We worship a God of abundance.
So true.
And so if
So
we
true.
start with what we have, right? If we start with participating and pushing our resources out into the community, then we discover that, one, we don't need as much as we thought we did.
Right.
And two, when we respond to God's call of generosity, it's like an incredible weed that can't stop growing, right? You end up getting more resources in, not for yourself, but to push back out the door.
Right.
And so my colleague and I wrote a book last year called The Wealth of Poverty, and one of the things we talk about is just starting from where you're at. So if you've never done a Peace with Justice offering, dude, this year, download one of the videos or podcasts and show a clip in your congregation. don't even just show the clip.
Right, exactly.
Start with being okay with your congregation being aware that these things are going on. Mm-hmm. Because somebody in your congregation is called to do justice work mm-hmm. as their primary vocation, mm-hmm. and we don't model that enough for people to hear the call. Mm.
Well, this has been super encouraging today. I hope people are picking up on what you're saying and the impact that your ministry is having, not only on the folks that you're working with, but with everyone in around the table. And that's what a holistic and beautiful approach to to working in community. And I hope it's been inspiring for folks today as they've listened in. Just as we wrap up, if people want to get in touch with your ministry or with you, how could they do that?
Parker Lane, if you just click on the Peeps tab, it has everybody's email and numbers.
Nice.
And that's the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Great. Yeah. Sorry, we just had the kind of internet juggernaut there when you gave the web address. Give it one more time.
So the web address is parkerlane.org. Mm-hmm.
Great. Really straightforward.
Yeah.
Well, Tina, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for for being here and for all the ministry you're involved in, and we look forward to celebrating with you on Peace with Justice Sunday this year.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Peace with Justice Sunday enables the United Methodist Church to have a voice in advocating for peace and justice through a broad spectrum of global programs. This is the podcast celebrating Peace with Justice Sunday.